Oh, this is No Face Movement, and it's February the 26th, 2013. And we got a lot of news to bring you. A lot of news. But I want to tell you guys, there's a lot of stuff going on with my channel. You guys may not believe me or Mystique, but we've been battling against entities. Not sure what they are. Um, a lot of strange stuff. We be posting the truth. Videos come up missing. People get unsubscribed and got resubscribed. Right, Mystique? And we've been seeing a lot of stuff as we're getting closer and closer to the truth. And some stuff we don't want to reveal to the world because it would put us in jeopardy, and we don't want to be in jeopardy. But here's some more breaking news I only heard once.
And some people are not ready for certain things. So we're trying to step this as fast as we can before some more major events occur. But we're trying to prepare everyone for certain things. Some people are just not ready for it. They would rather reject it than consider it, even if they don't take a hold to it. They won't process it, and that's not what we're about.
And it holds real power. We don't want people out there to be hellbound. But here we go. Here's another story. This is on Fox News. 6 underground tanks holding radioactive waste leak in Washington State. This should be one of our main priorities. This should be breaking news. But since it's a radioactive waste place, one of the biggest in our country, and it's in Washington, no one cares. The effects would be felt, they said, in a few years. But let's get to the article. Mystique, can you please indulge us with your beautiful voice?
Okay. 6 underground tanks holding radioactive waste leaking in Washington state. 6 underground tanks holding a mix of radioactive and toxic waste are leaking at America's most contaminated nuclear site in Washington, federal and state officials say, posing an eventual risk to groundwater and rivers. The leaking materials at Hanford Nuclear Reservation are no immediate threat to public safety or the environment because it would take perhaps years for the chemicals to reach groundwater, Washington Governor Jay Inslee said Friday. So far, nearby monitoring wells haven't detected higher radioactivity levels. But the leaks have renewed discussion over delays for emptying the tanks, which were installed decades ago and are long past their intended 20-year lifespan. None of these tanks would be acceptable for use today. They are all beyond their design life. None of them should be in service, said Tom Carpenter of Hanford Challenge, a Hanford watchdog group. And yet, they're holding two-thirds of the nation's high-level nuclear waste. Suzanne Dahl, the tank waste treatment manager for the Washington Department of Ecology, told, what is that? Reuters
Yep.
that 4 of the tanks have leaked in the past. It points to the age of the tanks and how there's going to be an increased probability of this happening in the future, she said. When waste is in the tanks, it's manageable. Once it's out of the tanks and in the soil, it's much harder to manage it, remove it, and down the road you're adding to contamination in the groundwater that already exists. Just last week, state officials announced that one of Hanford's 177 tanks was leaking 150 to 300 gallons a year. Inslee then traveled to Washington, D.C. to discuss the problem with federal officials, learning in meetings Friday that 6 tanks are leaking. The declining waste levels in the 6 tanks were missed because only a narrow band of measurements was evaluated, rather than a wider band that would have shown the levels changing over time, Inslee said. It's like if you're trying to determine if climate change is happening, only looking at the data for today, he said. Perhaps human error, the protocol did not call for it, but that's not the most important thing at the moment. The important thing now is to find and address the leakers. Department of Energy spokeswoman Lindsay Geisler said there was no immediate health risk and that federal officials will work with Washington state to address the matter. Regardless, Senator Ron Wyden, the new chairman of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, will ask the Government Accountability Office to investigate Hanford's tank monitoring and maintenance program, said his spokesman Tom Towsley. The federal government built the Hanford facility at the height of World War II as part of the Manhattan Project to build the atomic bomb. The remote site produced plutonium for the bomb dropped on Nagasaki, Japan, and continued supporting the nation's nuclear weapons arsenal for years. Today, it is the most contaminated nuclear site in the country, still surrounded by sagebrush, but with Washington's tri-cities of Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco several miles downriver. Several years ago, workers at Hanford completed 2 or 3 projects deemed urgent risks to the public and the environment, removing all weapons-grade plutonium from the site and emptying leaking pools that held spent nuclear fuel just 400 yards from the river. But successes at the site often are overshadowed by delays, budget overruns, and technological challenges. Nowhere have those challenges been more apparent than in Hanford's Central Plateau, home to the site's third most urgent project, emptying the tanks. Hanford's tanks hold some 53 million gallons of highly radioactive waste, enough to fill dozens of Olympic-sized swimming pools, and many of those tanks are known to have leaked in the past. An estimated 1 million gallons of radioactive liquid has already leaked there. The cornerstone of emptying the tanks is a treatment plant that will convert the waste into glass-like logs for safe, secure storage. The plant, last estimated to cost more than $12.3 billion, is billions of dollars over budget and behind schedule. It isn't expected to be operating until at least 2019. Washington State is imposing a zero-tolerance policy on radioactive waste leaking into the soil, Inslee said. So given those delays and the apparent deterioration of some of the tanks, the federal government will have to show that there is adequate storage for the waste in the meantime, he said. We are not convinced of this, he said. There will be a robust exchange of information in the coming weeks to get to the bottom of this. Inslee and Oregon Governor John Kishaber, both Democrats, have championed building additional tanks to ensure safe storage of the waste until the plant is completed. Wyden toured the site earlier this week. He said he shares the governor's concerns about the integrity of the tanks, but he wants more scientific information to determine it's the correct way to spend scarce money. Wyden noted the tanks, the nation's most contaminated nuclear site, and the challenges associated with ridding it of its toxic legacy will be a subject of upcoming hearings and a higher priority in Washington, D.C. The federal government already spends $2 billion each year on Hanford cleanup, 1/3 of its entire budget for nuclear cleanup nationally. The Energy Department has said it expects funding levels to remain the same for the foreseeable future, but a new Energy Department report released this week calls for annual budgets of as much as $3.5 billion during some years of the cleanup effort.
That's a lot of money that they spend cleaning this up. Basically, that nuclear waste, there's a problem there for them spending $2 billion a year to clean it up. Almost like Fukushima. But this is what's crazy. They said that there's 1 million gallons missing, right? Well, first off, before we get to 1 million gallons, this governor is talking about if there's enough money for this and years down the roads. When they talk about years down the roads and they're finally releasing this data and there's 1 million gallons of radioactive liquid has already leaked there and it takes years for it to be in the water, that's so much BS. They said how many gallons a year could leak out?
It's 1 million. I know that
Hold on,
things are usually way worse than what they're saying.
look, was just last week announced that one tanks was leaking 150 to 300 gallons a year. You're talking about 1 million gallons. Now you see this 150 to 300 gallons a year, right? That's a lot of gallons of nuclear waste. That's where that $2 billion is going. And so far, 1 million gallons have leaked. So how many years have this been really leaking? If 1 million gallons is gone, only 150 for a long time, where there's a bigger leak than what they're saying. 6 tanks, 150 to 300 gallons a year. That's a couple thousand gallons a year, folks, maybe more. 1 million gallons in the soil going into the water. That's a lot. That's something to be worried about. They shouldn't just brush this aside. This is a big problem. That's a lot of nuclear waste. That's going to mess up our generation to come. All right, they're just holding hearings and stuff. This is important. Should clean this up. This is another Fukushima. Alright, folks? This is where they made nuclear bombs and stuff, folks. You don't know what's there. Alright? That's just crazy, folks. We got a lot more information to come your way. We got 3 days and counting till the Pope is gone. Then on Friday, we got that movie, The Last Exorcism. And we're about to link that up to show you guys some symbols. I want everyone to be out there prepared for Wednesday and Friday. As Wednesday, Mercury's out of control, a lot of warnings and watches is out for that. And Friday, Venus is out of control, a lot of warnings and watches. Alright, folks, there's a lot of stuff going on. This ain't the time to be asleep. This ain't the time to sit back. You people out there should do some of your own research too. Alright, I do a lot of research, and about 60% of the news that I get, I can't even put on YouTube. Same with Mystique. Can you put 60% of stuff that we find on YouTube?
Definitely not.
Or otherwise it would shut us down. So I would like you guys to do some research. We will connect some dots, but keep going. We will take you as far as we can go legitly on this path. I want everyone out there, please rate, subscribe, and comment. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Blogspot, Critterbox, Garlic Production. Please subscribe to Mystique, Astrology and Astronomy channel. Those are my secondary channel. If anything happens to this channel, hopefully nothing will happen to this channel. One more thing. When you get down to the rabbit hole, you will start seeing stuff. You will notice stuff. Alright, so be prepared for that. This is the moving till next time, facing off. I want everyone out there to be peace and safe.